All right, everyone in Venezuela, Guiado has now commanded his entourage, basically the diplomats and envoys that are now loyal to him, which there are quite a few of. As far as the diplomatic structure of Venezuela, Venezuela's already undergone a coup for the most part. Maduro's been frozen out of most of the world. Now, he's instructed them to build relations with the U.S. military. I guess the idea is in case intervention is needed, his particular people want to make sure that he can reach out to D.C. I'm still dead set against the idea. I think it would be so much better to just fly a bunch of planes over Venezuela and drop weapons and ammo on the country and let the Venezuelan people sort it out. Maybe that would involve them saying fuck it and killing Guaido off. I don't really care. Look, Maduro can't govern anymore. Since when has there been any semblance of stability anywhere in Venezuela? It's been several years of non-stop protests. There is no economy there. Eventually, Maduro is going to get killed. By hook or by crook, Maduro's already out. Even if the oil prices were to double tomorrow, Venezuela would still not even be able to make its debt payments. The Chinese are landing goods in the country. Russia's gotten involved. They're pumping resources into Venezuela, and it's not working. And that's not due to U.S. action. Everyone's screaming, coup, coup, all of these friggin' socialists saying that it's the CIA did this. 3 years ago, the Venezuelan economy was already fundamentally bankrupt. 3 years ago, and until about 6 months ago, the U.S. didn't have any real sanctions on Venezuela. A couple of major figures in their upper echelons of Maduro's inner circle had been sanctioned. That's pretty much it. We didn't touch the oil. The oil prices dropped in the face of mass debt spending that Maduro and before him Chavez were using in order to rapidly advance quality of life in the country. And while that meant that people got their laptops and they got their refrigeration systems and something other than dirt-floored hovels, and now they've got commie blocks and stuff, that's all well and good, but no real attempt was made into taking any of that money and putting it into diversifying the economy. There was too much debt spending, that one would argue, and also they didn't update like their drilling rigs and shit like that, so they're falling apart right now. After several years of protests, when a lot of the upper middle class people that had been in the fuel industry left the country because they had the money early on, they got out while the getting's good. The young sort of college apprentice class, they left, a lot of the professionals. You've got doctors selling their bodies instead of selling medicine because there's no fucking medicine to sell. Now Guaido's coming out and talking about how this is, the whole show is being run by Cuban communists, and he's warning against foreign intervention from Cuba. He's trying to flip Maduro's argument on its head, and then the Republican Party here is getting cold feet about involving themselves at all, and shame on them for being cowards. You should stand behind Trump on what he's doing unless he decides to invade. If that gets to that point, then he should be dropped by all Americans like a hot potato. I know I would. I'm not going to accept, oh yeah, let's invade another country. Yeah, we're just getting out of some of these Middle Eastern theaters. Let's go invade something in Latin America for a change. No, thank you. I don't think that would be a good idea. I think if you want to see Trump not be reelected, all he would have to do is go and take a pot shot at Maduro and miss. I think that we should let the situation largely sort itself out. We can tell Guaido, if you establish yourself, Maduro's gone organically within Venezuela, we've got your back. We've recognized you as the leader. We can say we'll help with the movement of people and so forth. We can deliver aid. Certainly we would defend Colombia or Brazil if they got attacked, but Maduro shows no inclination towards doing so. Recently, Maduro has been opening things back up. Like there are certain economic stringencies that I think today, after 16 years or something, they just opened up several markets to competition from outside. He's allowing free movement now with Brazil again, although not, I think, Colombia yet. They repaired their relations a little bit with Guyana. So Maduro is clearly under enough pressure to try to be scaling back his sort of localized imperialism, which is really what it is. His idea is, well, socialism from coast to shining coast, basically. Socialism is always going to be imperialistic because it's so centralized and inherently authoritarian. It can't help it. Look at the EU, where their so-called socialism drives imperialism while they have a hyper-free market that abuses workers, actually, in the undercrust. Very interesting economic system. It's basically about the opposite of a good working system, which is why Europe is fundamentally doomed under its current path. But it's interesting that Guaido would command this. And I know that it's Guiado, but Guaido, it sounds cooler, so fuck. His name is Guaido as far as I'm concerned. I think he's basically a socialist anyway, though. Again, the best case scenario here is that Maduro's getting replaced by another socialist who simply understands the basic premise of economics. That's basically the only difference. Yeah, I mean, and maybe is more reluctant to shoot people. But the problem is, if he gets in there, the hardliners, the Maduro backers, that 10-15% of the population, they'll be probably protesting. And so you're still going to see, I mean, there's not going to be calm for a very long time. And then that doesn't even begin to address the debt. I'm not optimistic, at least short term, about Venezuela even surviving as a functioning state. It may require intervention. The thing is, I don't think it should be the U.S. doing it. It will look bad, number one. It will fail, probably, number two. Number three, I consider it immoral. There's no reason for us, as a North American power, to go into South America to establish ourselves in an area where the Russians and Chinese already operate freely and are basically in control of the country. Now, Guaido's talking about Cuban communists. He should be identifying the real problem. Look, the only nation that's got troops stationed there is Russia. Not the U.S. Our troops aren't in Venezuela. We're not getting involved. The Russians are, to the tune of several thousand men. They're flying stuff in. They're doing that to keep Maduro from getting assassinated, or to keep him and to keep him happy enough so he doesn't flee. He was ready to flee. Apparently, the Russians moved in and said, "No, stay here. We'll guard you." You know, nobody wants to deal with the Spetsnaz or whatever they're called. Which is true, you know. Nobody wants to have to fight them, so, you know, maybe protesters are a little bit more reluctant to storm his palace at this point. That, I mean, he could flee at any given point. We could wake up any random morning to find out Venezuela's under new rulership. Not that it's going to be markedly better than before. The only difference is that sanctions relief might help their economy a little. We're going to have to pump so many billions of dollars of aid into the country. Then we risk, if you get a country addicted to aid, you risk collapsing the organic economy. What needs to be done is a hyper-capitalistic restructuring of the country. What remains to be seen is if Guaido is actually going to do that. Initially, he was reluctant to even say that he would support the idea of the U.S. getting directly involved, even if it was under the utmost of circumstances. So, is this really our guy? Is this really who we're going to back in Venezuela? Aren't there some actual capitalists down there that we can work with? Like some people that understand more about economics? Probably not. That's about all. Peace out.